professionals. So I will just quickly stop sharing my screen and over to you, Elsa.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Elsa, and that's exactly right. So I'm really pleased to be here because health and well-being and promoting positive health and well-being is something I'm really passionate about. And just as Jenny said, last year I organised a wellbeing week, which is now coming back in the form of a wellness festival, which is so exciting. And it's over 6 weeks, and it's got we've got loads of different events and workshops and different things happening, which promote positive health and well-being and really the value of self-care in lots of different ways. So we've got things that range from like yoga classes and dance classes and singing workshops to really practical talks and workshops. Audrey's doing one for the festival as well on motivation. And we've got things on like managing anxiety and sleep and various different things. I'm not here just to promote the festival, not at all, but I thought it would be good to mention, as it was in my wonderful introduction, and also in case anyone's interested in taking part in anything, all of our events are free and online. So we want to make it really as accessible as possible to everybody to join. And you can find us on Facebook. It's probably the easiest place to find us. The name of our Facebook page is Wellness Festival 2021, but I'll put it in the chat as well. And along with, in case anyone doesn't have Facebook, I'll put our email address as well, so I can send you the link if you would like. So it'd be great to see some of you at those events as well, if you want to continue your wellbeing journey. And yeah. But onto this fabulous event, I'm going to introduce our first guest speaker for the afternoon, who is John Goldwyn. And John is the Senior Vice President and Director of Master Planning and Landscape at the WATG London. He is also the writer of the foreword in the Leader's Guide to Resilience. The WATG are the designers of Dubai's Atlantis, the Venetian in Las Vegas, and London's Claridge's, and their focus is not just on designing the outer beauty admired by the world, but ensuring that it is a reflection of the inner strength of the communities engaging with it. While John literally builds resilience from the ground up, he will explain how, even without that foundation, we can still retrofit inner strength and acceptance of our story to enhance the beauty of our outer lives. So I will hand over to John.
Thank you, Elsa. Thank you very much. Just listening to you, you exude great positivity. So thank you very much. I feel better already. So I understand that there are quite a lot of students listening today, and I guess I'd probably like to start by going back to when I was a student, when dinosaurs were still walking the earth, and it was a different time. I graduated in 1996, and like now, the world was really in a terrible state, but it was an economic problem rather than a kind of health pandemic that was devastating communities and business. And I really think it's important to say what I did then that you might want to do now as a sort of first step out into getting employment and those kind of things. And I guess my advice that I would give for what I did back then was really, I was just myself, and I was extremely enthusiastic. I am probably the world's most enthusiastic person, except for Audrey, who beats me on that front. But I think that enthusiasm and authentic passion are absolutely essential for succeeding at a time like now. And it's not just for people starting out, it's for me on a daily basis with my clients as well. Enthusiasm and your passion to be yourself. And I would also say, don't tout yourself for free. That's not the right thing to do. Free work is socially divisive. It stops social mobility for poorer people. It's not okay that only the rich kids get the free internships and stuff because they can afford it. Everyone deserves to be paid for what they do. So don't sell yourself for free. Maybe it's cheap. I remember my first job was in a small architectural studio in Bangkok, and part of my job responsibilities were sweeping up the cockroaches at the end of the day from the office, which probably was, you know, not the best thing to be doing, but I got paid for it modestly. And as I said, so no to free work, because it's, as I said, socially divisive, but be enthusiastic and authentic and you will be just fine. Be yourself. So I'm not a mental health expert. I trained back with the dinosaurs as a landscape architect and postgraduate urban designer. So why am I talking about busting stress and mental health and these kind of things? And more importantly, why did my friend Audrey ask me to write the introduction to her fabulous book, which is fabulous? And I think the answer to that is all about placemaking and the sort of physical side of mental health. I, like Audrey, want to try and help people to make things make things better for themselves and make things better for each other, to make our lives better, to enrich our lives. And the world itself right now, as I said, like when I graduated, there was an economic crisis, and now there's a health pandemic. The world is quite messed up. But I think all of us can help to fix the world by fixing places, and by fixing ourselves and the way that we sit within places, then that obviously starts to make the world a better place. And I think it's worth mentioning that I believe that cities are like organisms. And each one of us is like the immune system or the nervous system, the plasma within that organism. And collectively, our mental health, our well-being is affected by and also affects the places in which we inhabit. And I guess there's another thing. Anxiety is based on when you feel that you can't control your situation or can't control your outcome. So what does all of this mean? I guess to me, it means I like to think that I can help people control their space, control the space that they're within and how they feel within it. And so I take what Audrey teaches me about the individual, the self, and try and sort of apply it to the more local or regional level. I guess at this stage, I might be able to share my screen. If someone, can you give me a thumbs up, Audrey, if you can see that? Okay, cool. So here's an example, a tangible example. This is Fleet Street in London, currently one of the most trafficy and polluted streets of London. And my team's vision for this is to create a place that puts people right back at the center of their existence. We haven't sought planning permission for this or anything like that. This isn't being built as I speak. I wish it were, but it was really just what the team put together to try and understand how we could put the self, ourselves, right back at the middle of the places that we inhabit. And this, as I said, is my vision for London. But I think this really can work for ourselves on a more local, even more local level than this. For example, I have my own special happy place, and for me it's my garden, and sitting in my garden gives me a place to just relax and think about nothing, essentially think about as little as possible. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's very important to remember that doing nothing is actually doing something. And I think if we as individuals find this incredible happy place close to somewhere, I mean, you don't have to own it. It could be in a park, on a bench. It can be in a Starbucks or wherever. And I think it's important to remember that this can be at the center of our own mental health and our own mental well-being. And I guess my point is if you took a number of these spaces and congregated them together in a city in the way that I've illustrated in this image, I think that starts to talk about the way that our own personal space can really improve the mental health of ourselves and hence our communities, hence each other, working all the way up to hopefully making the world a slightly better place. And I guess the other thing I'd like to do is just, I know that she'll get a more formal introduction later. I'd like to speak about Audrey because I think it's important. That's why I'm here. She's here because she asked me to write the introduction to her book that hopefully now makes a small bit of sense of why she asked to do that. I think, other than myself, Audrey is the most enthusiastic person I've ever met in my life. And I think her positivity and her energy inspires me so much. When she says to me, "You've inspired me to do something," that level of inspiration that she seems to pull from a situation is not "You've inspired me to go and shop more locally," or "You've inspired me to read a book," or something like that. It's generally "You've inspired me to write a book, or to create a new website, or to do all of these incredible things." And she does them all simultaneously, which I find absolutely astonishing. She's absolutely engaged with everything that she does. But I think it goes back to what I was saying about, when you start out, it's that energy and that enthusiasm that really can give you the driving force to navigate through difficult waters. And we are in stormy and difficult waters at the moment. I do, I do appreciate that and understand it. And Audrey also has inspired me to pull myself out of my own professional silo in which I was sitting before, and to try and understand a little bit more of her world. I know that, in fact, Audrey told me it's Stress Awareness Month. Well, it's also World Landscape Architecture Month. And I trained as a landscape architect, thank goodness, all those years ago. And I think it's very important that we apply the resilience that I try and drive through my projects to the self as well, to create a resilient and a robust self. There's a real parallel between our physical surroundings and the self and the mental health, which Audrey and the other panelists advocate and will teach you people how to improve and strengthen as well. So with that, I think I will hand back again and say thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. I hope what I said made some sense. You never quite know in these situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Great. So our next speaker is Sharon Lawton, and Sharon is an award-winning coach who specialises in childhood resilience and the ways in which we can teach well-being and compassion as the foundations for lifelong success. For her, a resilient child will grow to be a resilient adult, and this is how she does it. So I will hand over to Sharon.
Thank you, Elsa. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Audrey, for asking me. I'm going to keep this brief because, as Audrey knows, if I'm passionate about a topic, I will talk about it forever. But this is one that I am really passionate about, so it does give me great pleasure to talk about this. Now, as Elsa said, I work with educators and with parents and with young people. And one of my particular passions is well-being, and in particular, managing stress and creating resilience. In my opinion, I think we fundamentally underestimate what you young people are able to do if only you're given the tools to do it. In my experience in working with educators and with parents and adults, we fix it for young people too much. Which is why I love coaching so much, because coaching is a solution-focused way of working with somebody. It's not about telling them what they should be doing. It's about giving people tools and empowering them to take ownership of them for themselves. Now, what I wanted to share with you today, so I just want to share my screen briefly with you. Hopefully you can see that okay. I hope that's visible there, Audrey, and everyone can see that okay. Fantastic, thank you. So I just want to share with you one of the tools that I use when I'm coaching, both with educators and with young people themselves. So often young people will come to work with me. It might be prior to going into higher education, might be talking about building resilience, moving into university. It might be dealing with stress around, sort of end of year or final exams. And this is one of the models that I share. And it's based on the triangle here. As you can see, the tripod's one of the most stable of structures. And if we put our feelings in the middle, whatever those feelings might be, so as a coach, I'm looking at building resilience as opposed to feeling stressed, because we look at what we want rather than what we don't want. So really notice that, thinking about what you want and saying what you want rather than what you don't want. You'll be amazed on how many people actually fall into that trap. But on the triangle, around the triangle, for us to feel resilient, there are 3 key areas. So the first area is physically what we focus on. So, what is your environment like? Look around you maybe now. I'm not quite sure where you're listening this from, but have a look around your environment now. Is it an environment that inspires you? Or is it an environment that actually, when you look around, you feel that it's slightly draining? The images that you look at. Now, do you have posters on the walls? Do you have inspiring word art around you? Certainly when I'm coaching in my coaching studio, if I'm not coaching over Zoom, I have lots of sort of inspirational quotes around me or pictures that inspire me, because that does, I know, make a difference. But also your social media feed. Now, I know adults bang on about this, but it is important, but it's just as important for adults as it is for young people as well. But, whom do you follow? The people that you follow, it's like creating a little city around you. And the accounts that you follow, you're allowing them through the walls of your city. And so are those accounts ones that when you look at them, you feel good, they inspire you, you build you up? Or are they the type of accounts that when you look at them, there's lots of negative sort of postings, there's lots of comparisons, there's lots of sort of toxic sort of sharing. So be aware of that, take action. Resilience is about taking action. You don't have to follow that stuff, so choose wisely. And also the way that we see ourselves and also our situation. So we can't always necessarily choose what is going on for us in our world, but we can 100% choose how we respond to it. We can 100% choose how we think about it. Those are the things that I know are addressed also in Audrey's book. And remember, choosing to do nothing is still a choice. So we always have that within our armor, in our personal power. So that's one side of the triangle. The second side of that triangle are the thoughts and the words that we use when we are talking about ourselves and when we are talking about our situation. Now, I can tell a lot about a person when I'm around them, their level of resilience and their sense of self-worth, just by listening to the way and the words that they use. Because if you talk about yourself or your situation in a self-depreciating way, the message that you're giving unconsciously is, I don't think much of myself, and I don't expect, therefore, you to think much of me too. So you're almost unconsciously giving permission for other people, not only to think badly of you, but also to jump in on that sort of negativity. Now, we talk a lot about banter, and banter's fine, but actually, when you really listen to that banter, is that banter that is building each other up? Or is it banter that's stripping each other down? Because even friends can talk about each other toxically and negatively. So again, be aware of that. Be aware of what you allow into your environment. But not something that I'm going to focus on today, but the thoughts that we have and the way that we talk about ourselves. But I'm going to challenge you just to listen out for what I call hot words. Automatic negative thoughts, ants. Words that include words like should, ought, must, can't, got to. Listen out for those, because they are the start of your negative thinking. Just a little secret, and I don't generally talk in sort of generalizations, but I am going to here. Everybody, even the most resilient of people, have negative thoughts. But the difference between those people who are flourishing, those people who are successful, whatever success means to you, and it will mean different things to different people. The people who are taking action and moving forward are the ones that hear the negative thoughts and start to reframe them. but it has to start with you noticing the unhelpful thoughts first. But where I just want to spend a little bit of the remainder of my time is across the bottom, our physiology, our body language. Now, this is all based on research by Professor Amy Cuddy at University of Harvard. You may or may not have come across her before. If you haven't, I would recommend you look up her TED Talk on body language and our physiology, which is incredible. Now, what Amy Cuddy talks about is, who do we listen to? Because it does make a huge difference. And what she, in her research, what she found was those people who were maybe feeling less resilient, maybe listening to those negative voices, changed their body language. They used what was called low power poses. They made themselves look smaller, insignificant. Maybe, the one that was sort of like trying not to be noticed in a crowd. But those people who tended to be more confident held themselves in a very different way. Now, people have been coached on this forever. And you see celebrities, politicians, pop stars even use coaching around power posing with Amy Cuddy. And basically what she challenges us to do is, if we are not feeling resilient, and what I'm going to challenge you to do today is to pick one side of the triangle and start to focus on that. But specifically, we can focus on power posing. Now, it's not about fake it till you make it. I don't believe in that. But it is about be it, use it, fake it until you become it. Because we can train ourselves by changing our body language. So I'm going to leave you with Amy Cuddy's 2-minute confidence and resilience activator. So for 2 minutes every day, she suggests that we stand in what she calls a power pose. Now think Superman, think Wonder Woman, but basically we are making ourselves by opening our chest out, looking up, because if you're feeling confident, you look up. If you're not feeling confident, we tend to look down. It's all about that, making ourselves look insignificant. Hands on our hips, or maybe hands in our pockets for 2 minutes. And what her research found was that those people who regularly did the 2 minutes confidence activator, before they went into a stressful situation, performed better and felt more confident and resilient in that particular session. Now, I have had the privilege of speaking to small groups, large groups, adults, young people. I have to say, when I'm standing in the front of a room of, sort of 50 plus young people, I usually feel more nervous than I do when I'm speaking to adults. Don't know why that is, just is. But I use the confidence activator, and it does make a huge difference, because you look confident and your brain's saying to you, hold on a minute, they're standing in a powerful pose. Maybe then they are confident. So give that a try. That's all I'm going to sort of share with you. Just a small tip there. 2 minutes confidence activator every day, and certainly before a stressful event. And on that note, thank you, Elsa. I'm going to hand back to you.
Great, thank you. Amazing. I've actually, coincidentally, yesterday I was just writing about power poses as part of the university essay. So it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot. Yeah, okay, great. So our next speaker is Heather. And Heather is a student professional development manager and wellbeing champion at Brunel University, supporting students at critical times of life's transitions with the key message: it's not always what you know that makes you a success, but the inner strength of who you are. So I will hand over to Heather.
Hi, and thank you very much for that lovely introduction. So I'm just going to keep this brief. I want to really just discuss the topic of qualifying your resilient health. So there is a lot of pressure on students to achieve academically, and there's also a lot of pressure on students to jump straight into a graduate role. However, COVID-19 really, I mean, it's fast-tracked the change and the shift of what qualifications are and what they mean. I'm just going to share my slides with you. There we go, hopefully. Okay, right. So yeah, so just as I was saying, recruiters are now not just looking for qualifications. They are looking for the whole package, the whole person and the character and those resilient traits that can support those businesses and support the work continuously. So as we can see here, in 2019, CBI with Pearson published a report on what they believed, or well, they tried to get a different definition of work ready. While they couldn't come up with a definition, they did see 3 consistent themes. So we know that to be successful, you need knowledge. We know that to be successful, you need skills. But what do we define as character? So how do we start? So the best way to start in building a character and building up yourself is to know what your strengths are. So these are 6 different strengths. And as you can see from the imagery here, what's sitting within those 6 different strengths is actually, it's not formal qualifications. It's not anything that you can learn through theory, but what actually these 6 strengths are is all based upon and made up through your core character, your core values, your experiences in life, your culture, religious factors, environmental factors, your political beliefs. It's what fundamentally makes you up as who you are. So to start building your character, the first tip is to just start to break it down and start to reflect upon the experiences that you have in everyday life, not just professionally, but personally. So this is an example of a personal SWOT analysis that I came across from Millennials Matter. It's just a simple example of a personal SWOT analysis that a student put together to start embedding a little bit more information and understanding what she could offer. So this is a very, very simple and easy tool to get you started. So think about what your strengths are. Be honest with what your weaknesses are. Know what your opportunities are. And then recognize what those threats are. And keep asking yourself these questions. Now, this is a really, really good tool that hugely helped me actually from Audrey's book. Once I started to think about what my goals were, I then started to, and obviously once I'd done my SWOT analysis, I then started to fill this character sheet in. And this is also what a tool that Audrey has introduced on her resilience sessions that she runs at Brunel University for the students within arts, business, and social sciences. It's a really, really simple tool to start to break it down. It's hugely overwhelming at the moment. We're getting so much conflicting information, worrying about coming back to university, just physically, online teaching, thinking about all of the different activities, everything that we need to do to tick boxes to gain that graduate job, or the job of our dreams, should I say. So this is just a really, really simple and easy way to do this. So when I started to do this, I started to put down, you know, my unique skills, my traits, and then as you can see, my weaknesses, hugely self-critical all of the time. But in starting to write down what I had achieved, it became a little less overwhelming, a little less scary. And the more that I started to recognize what I was good at, and I started to build in not just professionally what I was good at, but also what I do in everyday life, recognizing, you know, the people that I communicate with, those networks, those people that really inspire me, and I started to look at who those people are and what made them those people, the people that I inspire to be like, Audrey being one of them. As she is for many, and especially for our students. So before I end, I just want to give a very, very quick kind of reflection of 2019 for me. We went so quickly from classroom teaching, from being able to meet face to face and get to know students in order for us to continue to provide sessions for them, because that's my area of work. Very, very quickly, immediately, okay, so we had to adapt and do everything virtually online. I'm an event manager. I'm used to running around and meeting and greeting people, getting to one room to the next, and that's what I was used to doing. At the very beginning, I will admit it, it was overwhelming, and just trying to very, very quickly go, boom, okay, right, this is an event, it's online, how do I get people to register? Having people come in, we all know that you're still on mute, it still happens, I still do it. And I'll admit, it at the very beginning, I absolutely failed. It did not go according to plan. It was not perfect. I had such, such high hopes that it would transfer immediately. But with no time and no planning, of course, things are going to go wrong. However, once I got over my initial inner critic, should I say, I was able to start to really value what I was learning. I was then interested in and engaged in learning more about the different platforms and what we could do, to the point where now actually my name comes up as an expert, and I'm recommended to help people provide event solutions on different platforms, which is great, absolutely great. Where I was a massive tech phobe before, I was terrified of technology because I considered myself to be a people person, which to me was a physical environment of people. I've hugely adapted, and now I'm a virtual community person. So it's really, it's flipping the mindset of what you knew beforehand and embracing the changes as we go forward. We still need a network of people. We still need to be able to have a knowledge and those academic qualifications, the theory. But what we really know now is that it's the way that you adapt, it's the way that you see things, it's the way that you take action. It's okay if things go wrong, because we aren't perfect. Even technology will go wrong. We are human beings, and we just need to care. We just need to be a little bit more compassionate, as we are with others, with ourselves. So really, that's where my tips are. Take the action. Actually, reflect upon what is working. Don't allow your self-criticism to overwhelm you. And learning is continuous. We learn every single day, and we always will continue to learn, because it never stops. Things will always change. But by embracing that and moving forward with it, we can achieve success. We can continuously achieve success. So with that, I'm just going to end on my final note that failing is a part of our continuous learn. And it does make us who we are. And who we are is wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if I can. There we go.
Amazing, thank you, Heather. Great. I know this absolutely isn't my role here today, but just as a university student who's found a first year very challenging and overwhelming, and all of the emotions that you can think of, which I'm sure so many people here have felt. Particularly in the last 3 months, it's really taken, I found the beginning of the year very difficult because we started it in lockdown, and it was all back online, and it was all back to what it had been like this time last year. And what I found really useful, and which is why I love this event and stuff like this, is that I really had to I guess dig deep to sort of recognize what I needed to do to support myself in order to get through a difficult time, when there isn't, maybe it depends on your university or where you are or what you're doing, but there isn't necessarily always loads of support right there. I think in some ways, in some places, students have been a little bit I don't know what the word is, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but a little bit put to one side in a way, and so that's been really challenging. But what really helped was breaking it down and finding those practical things that helped me, and knowing that what helps me isn't going to be the same thing that helps loads of other people, but I'm really glad that I stopped and decided to, I made the decision to step back and find what works for me. And I just wanted to say that it's really okay to do that. Sometimes we're really pressured by deadlines and by life just moving at 100 miles per hour, but it's also okay to just stop, break it down, and then move on, and sometimes that's better. So yeah, sorry, I know that's not why I'm here, but I thought I just, as a young person with a voice on the panel, I thought I'd just add that in. But anyway, I'll introduce Audrey now, which is what I'm meant to be doing. We all know that we attend events like these and we get fired up, and then the event ends and all of the motivation goes. But the Leader's Guide to Resilience doesn't leave you hanging. And the doesn't leave you hanging. The lessons are there, the toolkit is there, and underpinning it all, working as your own personal cheerleader to get you from I can be a success to actually doing it, is Dr. Audrey Tang, chartered psychologist and media expert on practical wellbeing and international speaker. Where her previous book, The Leader's Guide to Mindfulness, calmed you, with resilience, she is here to arm you so you will not only survive crisis, rebuild when exhausted, but thrive beyond normal. So I'll pass over to Audrey.
Thank you, Elsa. And actually what you said pretty much sums up my talk. So I think we can all go home right now. It's who you are is far more important than what you know and what you have. And those are the key elements that everything that I say, all the tools every speaker has given you, that is what underpins every single thing there. And I'd like it if you would be kind enough to indulge me as I start my talk with, for me, one of my favorite poems about inner calm. And this is If by Rudyard Kipling, who says, If you can keep your head when all about you is losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. Now, that is a poem which I read when I was younger, and I thought, yep, that is what I need to do. That's how I need to manage stress. But did you know that even Rudyard Kipling, he himself had so big an argument with his brother-in-law that he was forced to leave America, his dream home, with his wife and come back to the UK and rebuild the rest of his life there. It's not as easy to do as it is to know. Why? Well, because stress in the 21st century is psychological. It's not simply a case of a lion chasing us and then it chases someone else so we get a bit of a break. How do we get a break from thinking, I must make those deadlines, I need to do that in tray, I've got a new promotion coming up and then my friend might get it instead of me? How do we stop that when it's just going on and on inside our heads? If we were to eat poison berries that looked beautiful in the forest, we could purge ourselves of the illness. But how do we purge ourselves of toxic relationships, of the toxic people who drain our energy that maybe at some point we let in? Psychological stress needs psychological tools in order to beat it. And so I'm going to give you a series of very quick tools that you can use yourself. You can do these exercises with me. They're all tools like this within the Leader's Guide to Resilience. But give these a go. 2 of them will clear your mind, 2 of them will help you re-energize, and 2 of them will help you focus. And again, all of that is part of making us up to be who we are, which, as I've said, is often far more important than anything else, especially right now. So, tool number 1, know your goal. Know what it is, have that goal. And this is a tool that I learned, you saw her, from the wonderful Sharon Lawton. So draw yourself a circle and split it into 8 different segments. And with that, write your goal down. Now, sometimes I have clients whose goals might be mental health, and they might fill it in with things like, this makes up my mental health: exercise, family, relationships, travel, career. But I'm going to actually break it down to let you use this tool for a dissertation, just because it can be adapted. So imagine your goal is to complete your first year project, third year project, an essay, let's just say. This can be broken down into different segments. You might have to do the reading first. You might have to do the note-taking. You might have to do the introduction. You might have to do the analysis. You might need to do the proofreading. You might need to do data collection, and so on. So you put down all the things that you need to do in order to achieve that goal into those segments. And then you need to mark off on a scale of 0 to 10 where you are on each of those. Now, I quite like this for a project because often I love reading. I can get up to 10 on that. That's great. Note-taking, love that too. Data analysis, actually going through it, hate it, hate it. So I often languish around 2 or 3 for those. Proofreading, hate that even more. That's usually about a 1. I try and just get rid of it and hand it in straight away. Introduction, I don't mind writing. That's about 5 or 6. The reason why you actually give yourself a visual representation of where you are on each of those segments is so you know, A, which bits you like, and B, which bits you actually need to focus on. It is too easy to keep focusing on the things that are already a 9 or a 10. Why? Because we enjoy them. We don't need the motivation to do them. But if you can actually see, you know what, to get the whole thing done, I really need to do those bits, it at least gives you that little nudge. That's where I need to focus. And then when you actually focus, all you need to think about every single day is not, how do I get this 2 to become a 10, but actually, how do I get that 2 to become a 3? That's all you ever need to do, is to be just a little bit better today than you were yesterday. So that's my first tool for breaking down a goal into manageable chunks and being able to have a visual representation of where you are. But of course, even then, you actually need to find the time to do all of those things. So try this as a way of working out your priorities. Draw yourself across and you'll have 4 quadrants. In one quadrant, and you can either write it down or you can write it on Post-it notes and stick it in there, is all the things that are important and urgent that you have to do. Important and urgent. So deadlines, medical appointments, those sort of things, important and urgent. In the next quadrant, write down the things that are urgent but not important that you have to do them. Next quadrant, things that are important but not so urgent. So important you have to do them, but not so urgent. And finally, last quadrant, not important and not urgent. And this is the little phrase that I always use. And I love this tool. I use this one myself a lot. Important and urgent. Do them. Do it. That's your priorities. So do it. If it's important that you do it, but not urgent, then maybe you can delay it. So that might be, for example, you have a deadline coming up and then you haven't seen your friends for ages and they want to go out. Maybe you can say to them, well, I can't do it now, but I can do it on Saturday, or I can do it next week. That way you still get to see them. You are able to delay it to when you've got time to do it. And also, because you've delayed it and managed to get all the important and urgent things done, when you do go out with them, you actually enjoy it as well. So do it if it's important and urgent. If it's important but not urgent, delay it. But what if it's urgent? It has to be done, but it's not so important that you do it. Well, delegate. And this one is particularly important and useful for parents, because it's things like, oh, someone has to fold the washing, someone has to fill the dishwasher, someone has to cook dinner. Absolutely, someone has to. Does it have to be you? And that's the question you can ask yourself for anything. Am I just holding on to this because I really need to do it? Or am I just holding on to it because I'm afraid to let go? Ask yourself that question, because delegation is a wonderful way to connect with other people, because what it's doing is it's telling people, I trust you. I believe you can do this. And it helps you develop the skills to support them in doing it as well. So if it's urgent that it has to be done, but not so important that you have to do it, learn to delegate it. And then when you've delegated it, not only do you have more time to do the things that are important and urgent, but you may also find time to grow, to develop, to explore new areas, because you're not holding on to things that actually you no longer need to hold on to. And this last one, if it's not urgent, not important, this is the easiest of all. Delete it. And what comes under there for me is scrolling mindlessly through social media, getting myself very upset that other people are doing more than me and those sorts of things. So simply, important and urgent, get it done. Important but not urgent, delay it. Urgent but not important, delegate it. Not important, not urgent, delete it. Do, delay, delegate, delete. That's all you need to remember. So these tools are really great for clearing your head. And you may go away and think, yeah, great, I'm going to do those, and you'll do them. You'll do them for probably a couple of days, and then the motivation will run out a little bit. You'll get a little bit tired. Maybe you just won't feel like filling that in today. Well, these two next tools, these are about re-energizing ourselves in order to feel motivated and feel capable of doing the harder stuff. Because the whole thing is, change is hard. It is difficult to do the things that we're not used to doing, but we know they are good for us. But nothing is as hard as feeling stuck somewhere you don't want to be. So these next two tools will help you through those times because they will re-energize you. This one, and all the speakers have talked about this one today. They've talked about the people we surround ourselves with, the external environment. It doesn't always need to be physical, as in buildings or trees or nature. It can as easily be the people we surround ourselves with too. So I'd like you to draw some cups of a hot drink, hot chocolate, tea, coffee. The reason I choose something hot is because it's warming, it feels lovely, and I like to have a nice hot cup of tea with somebody that I enjoy spending time with. Have about 3 of those cups. You don't have to have that many if you don't want to, but in each of those cups, I want you to write down the names of the people you would like to share that cup of tea, cup of coffee time with. So whatever those names are, I want you then to write down their values. So for example, as John was so kind to me earlier, I'll put his name down there. That's someone I want to share a cup of tea with. And yes, he's enthusiastic. So that's something, he's passionate about stuff. And I really, that's contagious and in a good way. And I love that. So he's passionate. He's funny, he makes me laugh. So he's humorous. And he's thoughtful. And that's something I enjoy because I learn something from him as well. So thoughtful. Now, there may be many more values that you will put in there. But here's the cunning thing that I want you to do with them. It's not simply about appreciating those things in other people, but actually working to live those values yourself. Because if you've identified them in the people you want to spend time with, unless you are demonstrating those values yourself, how can we really expect people with those values to really want to spend time with us? So think about, if I want to attract that type of person, I need to be that type of person as well. And do that for all of the names that you put down there. And every single day, work to live at least one of those values you've recognized. But there is an extra little bonus tip that comes with this. When you have recognized the people that you love spending time with, tell them. Don't expect them to know, because so many of us are so consumed with what's going on in our own lives that actually it's often such a boost to be told, you know what, you really made me smile yesterday, or you know what, I really enjoyed that. Don't expect them to know. Tell them, be that person. And the funny thing is, I do this in lectures and I tell people, text them right now, but I also have to tell them, you might need to say the trainer has told you to text them, because you're going to get a text back saying, are you drunk? And I think that's a real shame, because why do we have to be drunk before we're nice to people? Why can't this be something that we just build into our everyday lives? Why can't this be something we just build into our everyday environments? And that's something I work hard to do as well. So let them know. And the last little cheeky thing with this exercise is, if you do this often enough, so every night, think about maybe 3 people you'd like to share that cup of tea with, and do it every night for a week. You will notice the same names keep popping up, and some names don't. Spend more time with the names that crop up, and you'll be able to squeeze out the names that don't. Because the names that don't come up are often the ones that exhaust us, are often the people that make us feel drained. They're not the people we're necessarily grateful for. But if we work to be the values that we love in people, and we work to spend more time with the people who energize us, we either have more energy if we do have to see the ones that are slightly more draining, or alternatively, we may quite happily be able to say, I'm really sorry, I don't have time. So that's an extra little special tip there for the toxic or maybe more draining people who might be in our lives as well. But that's not just about other people. We need to know what energizes us as well. A lot of people talk about self-care. And when we talk about self-care, we automatically think, oh, spa or massage or going to the pub with friends. But actually, self-care means very individual things for different people. So I'd like you to think about what self-care means to you and whether it means being energized, which is the yang of self-care, or being relaxed, which is more the yin. So that's relaxed and that's energized. The reason I say this is because when it comes to having done a project, a lot of people say to me, oh, you can relax now. And I know it's kind and I know it's lovely, but it kind of winds me up, because if anyone knows me, they know that I like to be re-energized, not sit down and kind of listen to calming music and fall asleep. So know what works for you. Now, some things that go under my relaxation, because it does help sometimes when I need it, will be going out for a walk, or it might be doing some breathing exercises. And one of my favorites is just simply breathing in and repeating the affirmation to myself. Even if I can't control anything else, I can control my breathing. That's one of my favorite affirmations. So that really helps me relax, because that's so much nicer than someone saying calm down. But let's look at the energizers. Things like studying a new course, reading a book, hanging out with people who really energize me. Those are wonderful things. Listening to music, for me, they work. So what I want you to do is I want you to identify when you're enjoying something. That's the first thing. Then work out, is this relaxing me or is it energizing me? And then decide when you're feeling either very overwhelmed or very down, which is going to be the most effective right now. Because if you are feeling overwhelmed and anxious, then actually something that comes under the relaxing side will probably help. Whereas something that is energizing might actually be overstimulating. It may be too much information. And when we're feeling down, then again, we might need an energizer rather than a relaxer. Because if we're already feeling down, the last thing we want to do is keep ourselves down there for longer. So we might need to do something a little bit more energizing to get us fired up again and to focus on where it is we want to go. So think about what you enjoy, whether it's an energizer or a relaxer, and then always ask yourself, what do I need right now? And the last two tools are there to help us focus. Now, I was reading the word cloud at the beginning where you were asked what things are stressing you out right now, what things are you worrying about? And this is an exercise you can actually do with those things that you're worried about. This is known as the circle of control or circle of influence. And you think about all of the things that are really bugging you right now. And anything that you cannot control. So COVID, for example. Yes, we can wear masks, but we can't control it. We're not necessarily the scientists. This goes just in the circle of concern. So COVID, for example, might go here. Because there's nothing we can do. We're concerned about it. We're worried about it. There's nothing we can actually do about it. But anything we can actually do, then that goes in the middle. So if you are worried about your essay, that is something that you can do. You could break it down into manageable chunks like the goal wheel that I gave you at the beginning, but you can do something about that. So anything that you can actually take action over, that goes in here, which is your circle of influence. And so this might be your essays. This might be your revision. This might be applying for that job. Anything that you can influence goes in there. And that way, if you find yourself taking up all of your thinking time and energy with things that you can do nothing about, try to channel them into something where you can actually affect the outcome. And that brings me on to my last point, which relates to something someone said, and that was worries about the future, worries about the future. And a lot of us spend a lot of time thinking about the future or a lot of time worrying, resenting, regretting the past. The key tip I can give you here is, yes, it's great to have a goal. So have an awareness of where you want to go, because that gives you a direction. In terms of the past, there's not a lot you can do to change it, but there are a few things you might be able to do to reframe it. For example, seeing yourself as a survivor rather than a victim, seeing yourself as someone who's overcome something rather than be brought down by something. But the present, right now, this is the only time we can 100% guarantee that we have got in order to make the most effect on our future. So use the present now, the guaranteed time, to do what we need to do to make the future what we want it to be. And one lovely little tip to stay within the present, and I'd like you to join in with me for this, is just simply stretch out, because we have been sitting down, remember the power poses, posture, and so on, and think about anything, one thing that you love in your life that you've got right now. Just focus on that one thing, because that's in the present. That's in the present. I want you to now stretch across your chest and think about one person that you have in your life that you love right now. And shake out, and I want you to think about one thing that you are looking forward to doing today. And then when you go and do it, really enjoy it. So to bring us back to Rudyard Kipling, he actually wrote "if" after he'd had time to process that fallout. He went back to the UK, he thought about it, he overcame it, he rebuilt, he kept going. He learned, and so can you. So if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And you'll triumph o'er the race you've run. There is yet a postscript, because the literary scholars among you will be saying, but that's not the actual ending. No, that is the Marie Stopes non-gender biased ending to the poem, which she did suggest to Rudyard Kipling, who kept his head and told her politely he was not going to change it. But that is the final tool I'm going to give you. If you don't like something, you can choose to change it. If any of these tools, for example, don't work for you, you can choose to tweak them. And if rather than seeing our mental and emotional fitness as simply the absence of stress or the absence of mental illness or the absence of suffering, if we can see it instead as the presence of wellness, the opportunity to grow and the ability to flourish, then resilience will allow you to, yes, cope, but it will also allow you to rebuild and then thrive. Thank you all so much for attending the session. I do hope you found the tools useful. And as I said, even if you don't tweak them, change them, make them yours, I'll throw it back over to Jenny of John Smith's to close the event. Thank you all, and thank you so much to our wonderful, wonderful panel.
Thank you, everyone. That was really interesting and very valuable information. I think the students will all take away some really useful tips there. And Elsa, that was not out of the ordinary at all. That was really useful as well to get your input on that. So don't worry at all. That was great. Thank you. And I think that's it. So anyone that would like to have, I've popped my email address in the chat a couple of times, but if you would like the certificate or if you would like the workbook that Audrey has put together, I will be able to send that out to you very quickly. A few people have already emailed me, so some very keen people there, so I will send that out to you as soon as possible. We will be uploading the video onto YouTube, and I'll send that out to everyone as well. So any questions about the event, just get in touch with me. We do have more events coming up, so if you would be interested in that, just let me know and we can let you know the schedule of events coming up. But thank you very much, everyone. That was great. And bye I suppose. Bye.
Thank you.